Hey squads, today I want to talk to you about the differences and the advantages of solo and group hiking. So with 5,000 miles of hiking under my belt, I've had experience with both of these camps, and it can basically boil down to three different categories. Whether you're solo, whether you're hiking with a partner, or whether you're hiking with a group of people, such as a tramily. Alright, let's start with the basics. When you go by yourself, you have to be self-sustainable. What that means is you're responsible for all your own food, all your own gear, and all your own chores, as well as your own motivation. It's just you, and you can't rely on anybody else, basically. And versus when you go with a partner, you can share food, you can share gear if you trust that person, which we'll get to, and you can also split like camp chores, and you can motivate each other. When you're going with like multiple people, like a tramily, you can also share food, exchange food or whatever. You have each other to motivate you, and you can also split camp chores, like getting water, for example, and hanging bear bags. However, when you're in a tramily, you might not necessarily share gear. I mean, you could, but that would just be weird. I'm not familiar with anybody who does that. Alright, and then the next thing to consider is your plan for the day and the hike. When you're by yourself, all you have to do is consult with yourself where you want to camp, how many miles you want to do, how far you want to go, where you want to eat, and where you want to sleep. When you're with a group, those are all group decisions, and you have to come together, make a plan, and then stick to the plan. However, you can't be as spontaneous because, say, in the middle of the day, you decide, hey, I'm done. You can just set up your tent and call it a day. If you're a group, you have to convince however many people in your group that you want to quit for the day or whatever. Also, if you want to keep going, it's the reverse situation. And all these things can pile up. And then on top of that, say you want to go into a town, maybe your group doesn't. And maybe you can't afford to go into that town, and maybe your group wants to go. Or maybe you want to go, but your group can't afford it. Or so on and so forth, however you want to contribute. Sorry, my camera battery died. But that brings us to the next point, the cost. When you're by yourself, you have to foot the bill all by yourself. Versus when you're with a group, you can split basic costs, like sometimes permits, depending upon where you go. You can have multiple people on certain permits. National parks and stuff like that. But I don't know, do your research on that, obviously, but sometimes you can have multiple people on their permit and it doesn't cost any more money. Also, you can split basic services like laundry, for instance. You don't each have to buy soap and laundry services. You can all just pile the laundry together. Just make sure if you have matching gear to like somehow mark it before it goes in, because as stinky as you are, you don't want somebody else's stinky stuff. That's just weird. But yeah, at least just for me. Is that weird for you? Leave a comment down below. Or don't. I don't care. Can you focus, please? Alright, and then of course lodging. Lodging is a big expense that if you split among multiple hikers, it'll come down. Because sometimes, if you get enough people, a hotel room split amongst hikers will be a lot cheaper than if you were to each individually get a bunk at a hostel. However, if the hostel is the only option, and they have limited availability, it's easier to find accommodations if you're by yourself. Because a hostel is a lot more likely to be able to squeeze one person in than multiple. Also, that's the same for shelters, because other hikers are a lot more accommodating to just one more person than like a whole group and everybody has to squeeze in. It's like, I've been there, trust me. Show up with people, they're just like, no, this is our shelter. you show up by yourself, they're just like, okay, fine, you can come in. But yeah, if you're on a trail like the Appalachian Trail or the Long Trail, or are there other trails that have shelters? I don't know. But yeah, another thing that's a lot easier by yourself is hitching. Because just think to yourself, would you rather pick up a group of people or a single person? I know safety in numbers and everything is important, but the less people, the more likely you are to get a hitch, because like, who has space in their car for like 4, 5 people? Obviously. So yeah. Alright, and then my final point is the social aspect of the trail. When you're with your family or your friends or whoever you're hiking with, you're more likely to socialize with them than you will with the other hikers around. For example, I started the Long Trail with a group of people, my family, and first night I was gonna sleep in the shelter. There was only space for one of us, and so we all decided to camp somewhere else. I mean, originally I was going to stay in the shelter, but then I'm just like, I came out here to hike with my family, so I went and camped with them instead of camping, staying with the shelter and everybody and having that social experience. I hung out with my family instead. And I could have met and hung out with like 10 new friends in the shelter. Like, who knows? We could have created a new family. But I went out there to hike with my friends. So, obviously, if you want to make new friends, you're more likely to meet new people when you're by yourself. Because that's just how life goes. Why am I explaining this? Alright, so those are some of the pros and the cons of hiking by yourself versus with other people. Also, I should note, just don't drag any random people into the woods, because they're not gonna have as much fun as you are. Unless you can invite them. If they say yes, great. If they say no, don't force them, because honestly, you're better off by yourself, because they will resent you. And you will resent them for making your hike just a giant party pooper. You don't want to drag a party pooper with you along the trail. Also, I should also note, if you're dragging somebody along with you, or taking somebody along with you, just know, you better trust them. And have a conversation beforehand what you're gonna do if somebody gets injured, or somebody decides to quit and has to get off trail, because that conversation will save friendships and relationships. And yeah. So yeah. And if you're worried about going alone, a lot of these popular trails, such as the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, Long Trail, they have other people out there, especially if you're starting in a Nobo bubble during peak hiking season, or even like Sobo bubbles now. There'll be people around, and yeah. So, go out there, have fun, and I will see you out there. And may your elephants fly.